GBNews. Robert Hardman joins me now. He's a journalist and the author of this new book, Charles III, The Inside Story. And you'll have read about this all week because it's been making waves, it's been making headlines, not just in his own newspaper, the Daily Mail, but across Fleet Street, as we used to call it. Now, let's start, first of all, with the King and the Prince of Wales's health complaints. Were you surprised by how candid, particularly the statement on the King was? I know you've, I think there's a piece about your views on this in the Sunday Times this morning, but I mean, you know, it was admitting that he'd had this enlarged prostate, like many men of his generation. He's going to have this procedure next week. There was a bit more secrecy around the Princess of Wales's admission to the London clinic for this stomach surgery. But at the same time, I mean, do we have a right to know? Should we know? Why are we knowing this stuff?
Well, I think we certainly know more than we would have known in the past. I mean, you know, you and I have been around the royal patch for a while, and to think just a few years ago, you would not have seen the words enlarged prostate in a palace statement. But I think that's sort of a piece with the sort of new tone of this reign. You know, I think the King takes a view, well, you know, the public have a right to know some things. They don't have a right to know everything. But if I'm going to be, you know, if I'm a leader, if I'm setting an example, then if I can do some good by saying what it is that I've got, then encourage other people to step forward. And we've suddenly seen this huge spike in telephone calls to surgeries, online research,
yes,
a number of people looking and looking up, you know, prostate
Do you
issues.
think that came from the King?
Yeah, I think he, you know, he definitely has a sense that, of course, private things must remain private. But again, with the princess, I thought, you know, there was if you like, there was a greater degree of candour about the situation. To have two medical bulletins like that on the same day was pretty remarkable.
Do you think that the King released his statement to take the pressure off the Princess of Wales and all the question marks over what she was going through?
I think we often like to read lots into this. I think, honestly, I think it was just a case of, I think, you know, she was having her treatment anyway. But, I mean, she was in hospital at the time. His followed a checkup. It's really more down to the fact that, you know, when you're royal, if you are going to step out of your duties for a few days because you have to, that sets in motion an awful lot of cancellations, letting people down. They hate letting people down because they know that every engagement that's on their schedule for the next few weeks, you know, would have been planned to the nth degree for months. And so there are going to be a lot of unhappy people. And you've got to let them know soon before they sort of, you know, start putting out the bunting.
A couple of key revelations in the book. I mean, you piece together in a quite forensic manner, actually, the day that the Queen died. I mean, as far as the information that you've received, and particularly that note that you've managed to find that has been written by Sir Edward Young, her private secretary, she went peacefully, which is of comfort, I think, to the nation. I mean, it's quite important. That's quite something to report.
Well, I wanted to do it as sensitively as possible. You know, there are other aspects of that day that I haven't reported on, and I don't know the full extent, and I don't think it's appropriate that, you know, that should come out. But I think that, you know, there will be this note. It's there lodged for posterity in the Royal Archives, giving the in very short, very terse note form that yes, the established time of her death, but, you know, that she wouldn't have felt anything and that no pain. And I think people will feel, you know, very reassured by that. And I thought the other thing that I absolutely put the hairs on the back of my neck when I heard about it was that her last red box. She'd had a red box brought to her every single day of her life as Queen. She was only ever allowed 2 days off, her birthday and Christmas Day. Other than that, red box every day, full of papers and stuff to be dealt with. And right at the end, you know, they opened up her last red box that's there in her room after she's died, and there's a letter to the Prince of Wales, there's a letter to Sir Edward Young, and there's some homework because she was doing the last nominations for the Order of Merit, which she always took extremely seriously. And there was a long list and a medium and a short list, and she had to go through, look at all the biogs and then sort of tick a few. And so those nominations, she did them.
But the letter to Charles, I mean, do we think that that's because she did know that the end was nigh? Do we think that she always had that letter in the red box, maybe for recent months, because she knew she was in ill health?
We don't know. As I say in the book, we'll probably never know what was in it. And I totally understand that. But I think there was certainly a sense of, on those last few days, she really wanted to get the country back on its feet. That's why she was so keen to be on her feet and looking the part
in that final photograph.
With that final photograph, because all summer there hadn't really been a government to speak of, and she knew she had to appoint Prime Minister. Her central role, absolutely number one duty as a constitutional monarch, is to ensure the good governance of the country. And so she wanted to appoint Liz Truss, get that done, and obviously that involved before that accepting the resignation of Boris Johnson, and she was very buoyed up having done that. That was a weight off her mind.
You quote a senior palace steward in the book saying that she was angrier than I've ever seen her over this issue of Harry and Meghan calling their daughter Lilibet. Not so much using her cherished nickname, but the idea that the Sussexes had said that it was done with her permission, and Buckingham Palace said that recollections may vary on that. I mean, some of the headlines said Queen's fury. I mean, was she actually furious, do you think?
I was told she was as angry as this person had ever seen her. And as you say, it wasn't the name. I think some people have gone down the route of she was furious about the use of Lilibet. Who knows what the exact how it was sort of broken to her that we've chosen the name Lilibet. It was the fact that it was then presented that she'd endorsed it, that it had come with her blessing. And then it was the BBC, Johnny Diamond of the BBC, who broke the news that the Queen had not been asked. And at which point that's when legal action
was
kicked off. Yes, lawyers' letters came from the Sussexes, thrown at anyone who thought they might be about to repeat this calumny. And the Sussexes went to the palace, or their team went to the palace to sort of get there to prop up the story. And there was a rather deafening silence because the palace was not going to endorse a version of events that didn't tally with what the Queen remembered, and that's what you can't do. You can't. Recollections may vary, and if they do, they're not going to budge.
Do you think? I mean, in that final year with Spare and everything, I mean, goodness me, and the Netflix things and everything, in the run-up to all of that, do you think that the late Queen was sort of tearing her hair out about Harry, that she was angry with him, or more a case of saddened?
I don't think she would have been. She loved Harry. I mean, he wrote in his book Spare that they had a sort of special relationship. Well, I'm sure all the grandchildren would like to have felt that. But she definitely, she adored Harry.
She can't have enjoyed the Oprah Winfrey interview.
No, but I think, you've always got to stand back and think, think of all the things she's had to deal with during her life and her reign.
In the scheme of things.
In the scheme of things. And we always like to, obviously, as journalists, we always fixate on whatever the crisis of the moment is and say, oh, my gosh, they must be, lying awake at night worrying about this. But when you've been through, as she did, when you've been through the Second World War, knowing at any minute your entire family could be wiped out, your parents nearly get killed 3 times in a week by bombs on the palace, when you've gone through the 90s, when you've gone through the Annus Horribilis, your castle burning down, existential crisis for the line of succession, Panorama, all these things, the death of Diana.
By comparison, Meghan's Truth
and Netflix,
might not quite get up there.
A Netflix series is, it's in second order.
And finally, Robert, I mean, how would you characterise the first year of the Carolean era? Is he doing OK? I mean, is the monarchy's future assured? We know that younger people perhaps aren't as enamoured with the institution as people of our generation.
Well, that's always been the way, that's sort of history repeating itself. But, I think it's been an astonishing year and a half now. Year and a half. When you look back to all what everyone was sort of predicting, it'll never be the same. How can you possibly fill the shoes of the great Elizabeth II? And, of course, she's an impossible act to follow. But that sense of continuity and stability, and particularly at a time of political instability, I think the monarchy has been absolutely, it's done what it's there for. And I think he's come right through. He's a happy king. That's crucial. He's very much, he's got a grip. I just thought the way right at the start, he hit the ground running. We had that broadcast right away, and I think they're happy.
Robert Hardman, thank you very much. You can get his book from all good bookstores.